take a look at trade right now. The European Union is clearing the way for formal trade talks with the United States, according to Reuters. It comes after President Trump threatened to slap $11 billion on tariffs on the EU. Joining us right now is the director of the Heritage Foundation's Margaret Thatcher Center of Freedom and former foreign policy advisor under Margaret Thatcher, Nile Gardiner. Nile, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks so much for being here.
It's great to see you, Maria. Thank you very much.
So the president has been using tariffs as his leverage, and by and large, it's been working in terms of moving big decisions here in terms of trade and getting the U.S. in a better position. But markets are worried about tariffs on European goods. How do you see things?
Yeah, well, firstly, I would say that the president is absolutely right to call out the European Union. And the European Union is hugely protectionist in its outlook, and its subsidies for Airbus and other companies completely unacceptable. The World Trade Organization has clearly pointed out the EU's bad behavior on this point. And when President Trump says that the EU has been brutal in terms of its behavior on trade, he's absolutely right. I disagree, though, with the view of some of the administration that tariffs are the way forward. I think the tariffs are really taxes on American consumers at the end of the day, and they hurt Americans. And I think there are other ways of approaching this, very hard-line measures that can be taken against the European Union. For example, I think the US should make it 100% clear there'll be no movement whatsoever on a US-EU trade deal unless the European Union ends all its subsidies, and also that they end all the tariffs against the United States. And I think this message has to be sent loud and clear. Also, I believe the US focus should be on working with nation states within Europe as opposed to the European Commission. And basically, Washington should bypass Brussels and directly apply the pressure on the Germans, the French, the Italians, etc. And I think that at the end of the day, you know, dealing with the European Commission is not really going to get the United States anywhere, because the European Commission is dominated by a bunch of unaccountable Euro-federalists, and they're not going to budge on this issue. But I think the pressure should be directly applied upon European leaders themselves at the national level. And at the same time as well, the United States should end its decades-long support for what is known as the European project, this idea of a federal Europe. A federal Europe isn't in US national interests whatsoever, and the United States should really focus upon supporting a Europe of nation states, fully backing Brexit, for example, giving 100% support, as the president has been doing, for a U.S.-U.K. free trade agreement. And Brexit is really the way forward for Europe. And Brexit, of course, threatens this idea of a federal European superstate. And so the president's support for Brexit, I think, has been absolutely tremendous and very powerful.
But Niall, James Freeman here with the Wall Street Journal. I'm wondering if maybe the president could have done more sort of sketching out what that model U.S.-U.K. free trade agreement would look like.
Well, that's a good point, and I think that you know, the president has been very consistent on this issue, saying that a U.S.-U.K. free trade deal would be great for the United States and great for Britain as well. And I think Trump has consistently thrown down the gauntlet to the European Union here on this issue, saying that, you know, Brexit is a great development for America. And I do think the administration has actually taken very advanced steps in terms of some of the early negotiations with the British government on this issue. There's also tremendous movement on Capitol Hill. And already you have 19 senators who have signed up to the new UK trade caucus in the Senate that is pushing for a US-UK free trade agreement. So I do think the administration is doing everything possible right now actually to back a US-UK free trade deal. The movement really has to be on the British side here. Britain has to get out of the European Union. I think that is the first thing that needs to be done here.
Well, we'll see if that happens anytime soon, Niall. We've been waiting for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that, unfortunately, you know, we've seen extremely poor leadership from Theresa May as British Prime Minister. She is the weakest Prime Minister in decades. We need a new British leader who genuinely believes in Brexit and is going to deliver it.
Niall, we really appreciate having you on. We love having you on, actually, Niall. Sorry that it's a little abbreviated today with all of the breaking news. Please come back soon.
No problem.
Nile Gardiner joining us there. Coming up, a major